And welcome everybody to our, oh man, I thought of a name last night. The Content Creator Coaching on Tuesday. CCC. Oh, wait, that makes it CCC. Maybe I don't like that. Anyhow, Content Creator Day. We've been doing this for a while now. Clover from Texas joins us. Welcome.
Hey, good to be here.
This is the sloppiest opening of all the openings, and I've done some sloppy openings. So this show definitely needs some work as far as an opener, but I don't think either one of us have ever put any effort into that. So we go live on Tuesdays. We started doing this last year in preparation for SHOT Show, but both of us like talking about nerd stuff about content creation, so we just kept doing it. So normally we come up with a topic, and I've tried some different strategies, and I always forget because of everything else that's going on, and I guess we prioritize this thing pretty low. But I call it Ask Us Anything. So if anyone shows up to ask us anything, they can. Let me ask Clover, when's the first time you heard of an Ask Us Anything concept project or whatever? Like this is a kind of common thing now. Are you familiar with it? And when's the first time you heard about it?
Oh man, the first time I've heard of the concept in general, a long time ago, very long time
Oh,
ago,
before
probably.
internet, you mean?
I don't know. I mean, I think AMAs, but are maybe from chat and forum days or something. So like late '90s, early 2000s. But I don't think I've heard of one like outside of you know what I mean, the internet world.
Off the internet. Okay. That's I
Yeah,
wasn't sure because
yeah,
sometimes things come from like sports and I wouldn't know. Like I literally never watched sports my entire life.
yeah,
I'm fairly
yeah, yeah,
aware what
yeah,
ball you use for each sport. So like
yeah,
if that was something that came from there, I would have never known. Or
yeah.
if it was just something else in culture that I didn't know, like
But
maybe movies or something. But yeah, I think for Reddit is the first time I've heard of it. And then I hate everything on Reddit usually. So at least my tendency is to not like things that come from Reddit just because
I
of
can remember, I can remember there being celebrities or pseudo celebrities or whatever in some of the different chat threads. Yahoo chat, MSN chat, AOL chat, stuff like that back in the day. And I can remember Ask Me Anythings with that. And that's what was weird is it was text based. So there would be it's really weird. There would be like on a radio show, but then we would be live texting. It's similar to what we're all doing right here in one package on YouTube, right? Like, because the conversation was happening live on the radio, but then adjacent to that, they would have a laptop or they would have whatever that they were able to see their AOL or Yahoo or MSN chat room, right? And then so you had um, basically the same as this right here. It's just multiple parts and pieces combined to make it happen. Where right now you literally click one little thing and go. So,
Well, it didn't work. I tried to type in there the excuse of my phone isn't up to date. And we're in Arizona where we don't change time zones, and y'all change time zones this weekend. And I'm just barely figuring out that my phone ain't right because I haven't really needed to use the phone for anything.
yeah,
Anyhow, so
unfortunately, yeah.
thanks everybody for joining us. Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Is it might have been from because it kind of seemed like when I first heard about it, it was already a thing. That's why I just kind of assumed they were incorporating it into the internet. But anyway, um, so it's ask us anything. I guess we'll ask our ghosts thing, proxers and briefs.
Huh, you get that. Like, ask me anything. Content creator coaching on Tuesday. I guess because we said ask us anything, they really are kind of getting weird. But
There's new things that are a mix of both, so it's an easy answer.
like we're talking about content creator coaching.
Don't think either one of them. Maybe the one boxer. Oh no, boxer briefs I see versus boxer. So maybe the two gives you two words, so a better search engine. Boxer could be confusing. Boxer briefs makes a more refined search engine term. So we'll have to go with boxer briefs for SEO.
This is true. Yeah, I would be okay with that. Boxers could
Um,
mean a car, could mean a fighter, could mean a bunch of
so from Drucifer, question for you: what do you think of the Century Arms MP5 clones?
things. They're all right.
I'm not a. I used to be a big fan of MP5s when I was a little kid, and then I started shooting them, and I was like, less interested in them. It's kind of like some cars.
Yeah.
You get in them, and you're like, oh, you know what? It looks cool, but I don't really like this car, or it's too
Yeah.
fragile, or it's weird, or something. So for
Yeah.
me, I just never loved it, even after I picked it up the first time, and it was a combination of they're heavier than you think, and they're just too complicated. I grew up with lever actions, and even revolvers are pretty complicated. But I grew up with guns that I understood every part. There's just a lot of parts in those guns, and then the cost. The cost is insane, and the things you have to, the jobs you have to do in order to get one given to you by your uncle are not easy or fun, or there's some of them are interesting jobs, but most of them are not. And so it's not something you're just going to get handed to you in this country, maybe in Germany or something. So for me, it was my growing up years and figuring out guns way before the internet and stuff. They were always one of those. They were one of my first guns that I had a lot of interest in, and then was disappointed, let's say, or like less infatuated once I picked it up. But at least that learned my lesson there. Kind of the same with a Thompson. When you pick one of them up for the first time, lots of guns, right? You think they're going to be one way, and you just don't know until you pick them up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, then I remember we were just talking about AOL a second ago. I can remember the people at our gun websites when we first started this whole thing. We would sit around at AOL looking at Shotgun News, and I can remember when those first parts kits were coming over, and like you were first putting them together. And that's when I had to make the decision: which angle am I, or which way am I going, right? And that's when I went the AK route. I could have put together ARs, something else, or AKs, and I went with AKs for whatever
Yeah.
reason, right? I went with AKs. So for me, it
Yeah.
was all right. Well, I have to make the decision. I don't have the resources or time or interest to do any more than one. So for me, that was sort of the last goodbye. If I would have been a different person, maybe like maybe I was German or something, maybe I would care more about these things. But I probably could have turned a corner there and become an MP, HK builder. And over the years, I've been aware of the goofy sporting use versions, the horrible neutered runs they've put in, and those are just frustrating and depressing. Like every HK is awesome, and then we get a horrible neutered version of it, which is just frustrating. So
Right.
that's another reason I didn't complain too much. I mean, we have to neuter our AKs and not make them full auto, but for the most part, we can really emulate most of the stuff that
Uh-huh.
exists out there. With the HK, you automatically got to pull it from full auto. So that's the first thing you have to change. But then they're just so expensive that you had to wait for other people to make them. So for me, it was like, there's no chance I'm going to afford this. And the people I knew people. That's the other problem is I knew people who had real HKs, like honest to goodness ones, and have shot real ones and stuff. So I had access to real ones. There's no reason for me to build a fake one when I could, or really,
Yeah.
really wanted to, almost shoot one every weekend. So uh, so for me, it was that kind of decision. Then fast forward mid 2000s or something, whenever ATI came out with the 22s, I honestly thought about changing my mind a little bit. I mean, not hard, but I could have, and I almost would have. I think if you would have gone that direction and went H and K, you would have started seeing some relief then when ATI started making their 22 caliber clones, which looked awesome. And from afar at least, they were super cool. I'm sure they were kind of fake and lame when you get into them, and then that eventually opened the door, and now we have actual clones. So what do I think of them? I think that they're probably some kind of weird sigh of relief slash light at the end of the tunnel for everybody who's been on the H&K thing, because it's been so expensive and frustrating and few of their guns to be able to get over here. That's got to be great, unless they just hate the inauthenticity of them, right? Because they're not German, which has got to be kind of frustrating for people. It's sort of like the AKs that are built here. I could care less. I'm sure they're built well. I've seen the Chinese one from PSA. I think it's cool, but my thing is that we're using the guns that were built in the Cold War to kill us. That we're playing
Yeah.
with their things as toys. So that's just not, they can't create that in a factory. So for me, I could understand like somebody going, "Well, the Century one's great, but it ain't German, and I'm German, and I'm looking for a German gun." So next. So I don't know. That's my take. That's more than people wanted, but I think that's what these are about, right? So
So I've started some creator questions.
okay, good one. Let me
For the
try to highlight it. I don't see it.
gun content, catch us on Saturdays, folks.
Okay, yeah, I'll quit doing gun
Ask
ones.
gun questions on Saturdays, and you get Big Tony Simon in here with us too. So, but
Oh, that's a
yeah,
good
we got
point.
some creator stuff. So let's get back on track here.
Okay, so Jeff says from Camping Gear Report, are you hearing from many brands struggling because of the ATF stuff? I have a sponsor impacted and may need to find. I have a sponsor
Yeah.
impacted and may need. Oh, you may need to find other sponsors. You're saying?
Yeah.
I wonder what he means because the sponsor's gonna have their legs kicked out from under them and they're no longer going to exist, or because of YouTube issues or something. He's got to find it. I don't know what he means by that second part, but me
It sounds to
personally, I haven't heard
me.
anything about ATF being anything more than a topic of discussion. Nothing's been like imminent, but I don't have sponsors or I don't have anybody saying
Yeah,
so.
I haven't had any issues with sponsors, but I'll tell you, I have had some issues as far as product review type things where they're hesitant to send out anything with a pistol brace. Um, so, I have had that going on, so I could certainly see some issues out there with specifically with the pistol brace stuff. And maybe even the receiver stuff to an extent if you're talking about P80s and other things like that. So, not surprising. And yeah, I mean, diversity is king. We talk about that all the time. Of course, your report out there all too well understands the whole diversifying revenue streams thing. And so, yeah, having uh, a stable, I guess you could call it, of brands and things that you can potentially switch back and forth between and deal with to help with all sorts of things, not just issues that they might be having with, legislative hurdles and other things, but then also, as G pointed out, even to help with policy related issues. We had to make some decisions recently. Uh, we had some companies that were ready to write checks, basically. But we had to figure out they all wanted to write the check for the same thing, and so we had to go in and kind of figure out, hey, if we put company A in this slot, then maybe that's going to work best for everybody, and then we'll put company B over here instead, right? And I don't want to get all personal and give away too much because I wasn't the only one involved in this, but um, what I'm saying is having those multiple companies allows you to kind of move things around with what works best with, policy and, best exposure for that company and, a lot of different things. So not just to the benefit of the creator or the company, but everybody involved basically. And so similar situation there. Definitely need to be playing up multiple angles. Roll call.
I'm gonna invest heavily in 30 super carry and just sidestep
Right.
all these
All
issues.
right. Yeah, no kidding.
So roll call from the Indiana is saying, wait,
Mhm.
what did we do first? We did Jeff from the Florida, right? So next is roll call from.
Jeff is North Carolina,
Or no, wait, he's South Carolina,
South Carolina.
but he hangs out in Florida often.
One of
So
those Carolinas. Yeah, yeah,
TJ's
yeah.
in
TJ's
Florida.
in Florida, and that could be TJ. Doubtful, but it could be.
So roll call from the Indiana is saying, do you guys think Patreon is losing traction and should folks just focus on swag products to raise funds for the channel?
Oh.
Just is never a good thing, right? That's to never use absolutes, right? So the never part, maybe modify your percentages or what. So we got a couple of angles here. Roll call is I don't know what to call them, like a channel that's been around for a while, has a ton of experience and reputation in the game, is an expert in the field or whatever his channel is, right? Like he knows what he's talking about and he's been doing, he's comfortable with it, but he isn't motivated at massive audience and massive like subscriber count and stuff. He's like not doing things that sacrifice this for that in order to get more subscribers all the time.
All right.
So in that case, and also he's never sent me a patch. So I'm just saying he's got these patches, never sent me one. But
Right.
so raising or doing the swag and stuff, that's a really good question, I think, especially for you're indicative, that's the right word, of a lot of channels out there, because it's a no-brainer for something like a giant channel to do Patreon because it costs zero. Swag costs money. And if you're a giant channel and you've got thousands of subscribers, and let's say you wanted to do a sticker, Well, unless you get the sticker for 1 cent, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars probably to get stickers out, not just out and made, but sent to everybody. So scale, right? Like Patreon becomes the opposite. Patreon just becomes even more income if you got a lot of people out there. So
Yeah.
as you're growing and as you're doing stuff, I guess it's really, man, there's no perfect answer. So I definitely can understand people's concern about the Patreon. I just don't think of it as just income. If it was,
Yeah.
I hate to throw any of them under the bus, but if it was just a PayPal subscribe link, I think I can throw that one under the bus, because you can build, you can go to PayPal, go to the seller's tools, I think, and in there you're going to get a link to be able to put buttons on your website, and you can change the button
Or
to say
just set up a PayPal.me or whatever.
oh, is that another thing? So in other words, you can
Yeah.
create a PayPal method of someone subscribing or paying for you, or giving you a donation, and that you can make it have an automated thank you or something. Or once you get the donated funds, you could then go live and say, "Hey, so and so donated, thank you." On the Patreon, you've got some feedback mechanism, you got the infrastructure, you've got people who are interested in venture funding what they appreciate, right? That might be something that's written or sung or spoken or a video. So they're over there investing anyway. And now you're one of the people that they invest in. I guess it's possible for some people to go, I like one entity and I support them on Patreon, and I put blinders on, I go to Patreon and I don't look at anything else. The more rule of the game, I think, is people go to Patreon and go, oh, this is neat, and I'm giving $2 to this person because I like what they're doing. Oh, but then there's also this person, and you're already paying Patreon anyway each month. So instead of paying $2, you're paying $4, and now you're supporting 2 people, and then it's kind of like venture capitalism. Like when you go to Kickstarter or Indiegogo and you start participating in the different things, you start getting stuff in the mail. It's sort of like eBay, except it's not, because instead of just getting something in the mail, you know that you've helped start a business. Potentially you've helped change the direction of somebody's, or maybe even a family, or like a small group of people's families direction, right? You've given them some inspiration and some resources and some motivation, and who knows what you start there. And that becomes kind of addicting. It's really neat to be very low barrier, like low money, low cost investor in a lot of interesting projects. So that's what you miss out on Patreon. As a person who's used Patreon for a while, we can link our videos over there. I use it as a blog because its formatting is better than like most of the social platforms. So if you're going to send somebody to a better formatted blog anyway, might as well be one that can be a subscription service for you. So I think Patreon is a massive resource. And even if you don't emphasize the subscriber portion of it, just using it as your blog or as your place to have like a cool hangout that isn't Discord, right? I mean, that's another option, like a Discord, or like, I'm going to put you in my Facebook group. Well, that doesn't appeal to anybody who doesn't want to learn Facebook or Discord, or go into Facebook or Discord and do anything in there. You might be comfortable in there, but the Patreon becomes a more, I don't want to say sterile, just a more easy to use, a little more, you have a front door to your place, but you're also in an apartment building. It's not like a storage locker where you feel like you shouldn't even be in there. Like Discord is like going into a storage locker. Go meet me at the U-Haul place. I'm in storage locker 14. It's okay. Just knock twice and I'll open the door. Like, you're going to feel creepy and weird going in there to do business in a storage locker. If you go into a apartment building, it's a little different, right? But Patreon, I guess it's more like a business center, it's like a strip mall or something. Like, you feel comfortable because you're in a place that's meant for doing business. And if you go to a strip mall and you go to a meeting for a group and you're like, okay, normally these are stores, but I'm here to meet people, you're not that uncomfortable. You haven't felt like you've done something outside your comfort. But if you got to like join a club, or you have to go into some crazy back alley to be able to go to a meeting, you're asking people to do stuff that's outside their comfort zone. So for those reasons, Patreon is super valuable. You can ignore the money part of it. The swag stuff, I don't even get started, because I think there's so much potential there. It's just fun to be able to own, like when you got your patched roll call, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You got that and you're like, dang, here's a tangible real life thing, and I get to like have some fun with this. I mean, I've obviously done that over and over and over. I really dig that. You're leaving something behind. Videos and stuff are neat, but in reality, you got people's memories. But patches exist, stickers exist, hats, are still there. So anyway, I don't know, Chloe's going to riff on this too.
Yeah, I'm going to go totally different direction because yeah, there's no sense in piggybacking on any of the things. I'll go with simple, modern flavor of the day, news of the day. Why this is probably a question because I brought it up in a private chat yesterday with the issues with Silicon Bank and Patreon being tied somewhat to that. And, so Patreon, as well as YouTube channel members, as well as any type of a membership platform, typically are seeing drops across the board. That doesn't mean other channels and other niches are not totally successful with it. And that applies specifically to uh, Patreon and a lot of other stuff. So what we see a lot of times is we'll see, economic challenges, 15, whatever, $5 for a dozen eggs, whatever, $12 for a gallon of milk, whatever craziness we're seeing in the world, right? Um, and people have to make a choice. And so, yeah, okay, it may only be $12 a year on Patreon, but they see that as money going out, right? In those situations, they don't see it as at the end of the day is $12 a year, and maybe it is for them, right? Everybody's got to make that decision. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong decision, but they got to make the decision based on their circumstances, and a lot of times they just see that as money going out. The amount and the realistic nature of is it really gonna, you know, uh, that $12 a year, is that really going to help out my situation? Yeah, I don't know. For some people it might, right? So we're seeing that type of activity across the board. And so, like, not just with things like, platforms that facilitate that, like Patreon. So, I think it's going to come back around. I think, we go through cycles and whatever. I mean, anybody remember 2008? I come through with shining colors on the backside of 2008 with stocks I bought so cheap at the time and all of that kind of stuff, right? So, there can be certain opportunities, right, in what looks like a gray cloud. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's worth ditching and going, oh, it's over. The days are over. It's not. It doesn't work anymore. It's like, Patreon is, if you've been following and keeping up, they are rolling with the punches. They're adding some features. They're changing some things around the way they handle things. Um, yeah, get into like the help section and stuff like that occasionally, and read through Patreon. So I don't think they're on the decline. And I could be wrong about that. It may surprise me tomorrow. Who knows? But I don't think they are. So I would say be diversified for the sake of being diversified, right? Um, don't be diversified because you think one thing or the other is going to fail, right? Yeah, sure, that can happen, but don't let that be your motivation because you're a cat chasing its tail or a puppy chasing its tail at that point. It's like, oh, I'm on Patreon. Oh, Patreon looks like crap now. I'm jumping over here. Oh, I'm jumping over here. I'm jumping. Just do it all. And as the tides ebb and flow, right? As far as the economy, as far as you know, legislation that scares people into panic buying, as far as whatever, right, is going on in the world, you've got all the bases covered. You're there. You have a presence. If people want to throw a buck or two or five or 10 or 200, then it's there, right? It's um, not really costing you anything per se.
Man, I think we could do a whole show on that, but I'll not keep commenting on this one, even though there's like 4 different things I can go on for that. Just after stuff I thought about and the stuff is riffing off of stuff you said. So that's a great question. Thanks, Roll Call. The next one, then, and like I say, we could probably do a whole show on that. If I was smart, I'd be opening up a Word doc right now, or even on my StreamYard, just making some new shows already.
Can
Based on my
always-
schedule on that for.
Can always scroll through this later.
Yeah, I'm never gonna do that. But yeah, no, exactly. And then let's see. Snob is saying, let's talk affiliate marketing for one of these shows that's becoming more interesting to them.
Mhm.
Affiliate marketing is like your Amazons. It's you've got some middle, what do they call them? They have some marketplaces where content creators log in
Networks.
and people selling stuff log in, right? Okay, networks, and then you have they facilitate banners and codes and links and stuff, and you can make a couple of bucks every time you send somebody over. um, I already said Amazon. There's some other big affiliates, and as soon as I started describing the thing, I started forgetting the other big ones besides Amazon. But there's some giant ones. Oh, USCCA, the
Dude,
insurances, those are all.
eBay's one a lot of people don't think about.
That's a great point. I don't even think about it. And eBay, and I like Amazon. Let's say you're going to be in the okay. So I'm describing who the affiliates are. So let's say Amazon, so everybody knows what it is. Amazon people go to Amazon, they buy stuff. When you go to Amazon, you're going from somewhere usually. So Amazon figured out a long time ago we can incentivize people to direct people to Amazon instead of some other website. We'll give them a cut of who they send over. And it's not huge, but depending on the blah blah blah, you can make any money out of it.
Yeah.
Large entities make lots and lots of money. Small entities make a trickle of money, and depending on how often and how much you want to put into it. But it can be as easy as like a zillion different ways. I mean, again, there's all channels on this, not just whole shows on this. So affiliate marketing, yeah, we can definitely talk about it. That was my sort of elevator speech, but Clover, feel free to rip on this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think we should put that down and have a conversation because there's a lot of different angles to play on it for sure.
Gunmetal asked if he could ask. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think you did eventually. And then I'm just going in order that Clover could click some of these. Sponsors seeing huge drops in orders impacting cash flow. So that has to do with the brace thing? Or you just said in general? But if we're seeing, are you hearing from many brands struggling because of the ATF? So it's not the ATF, it's the people who didn't play their representatives right, and the Republicans gave us 2 different new gun controls last year, and the ATF is emboldened by that and running around doing what they're told. So I'm not trying to give the ATF a escape, but I'm just saying the reality is that we're dealing with stuff that has to do with the big game. So
Yeah.
now we're seeing brands struggle, and he's saying all of the ATF stuff. So not just the braces, not just the redefinitions. That can include a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So sponsors seeing who's dropping orders. So I guess if you were going to talk to Beretta, or if you were going to talk to Taurus, and you were going to talk to what's the new one? LFA. What's LFA?
Live Free Armory. Yeah.
Okay, 3 different companies, one of the oldest companies on the planet, a company that's been through, both Beretta and Taurus have been through many, what do you call them, shortages and political issues.
Tough
and
times. Just let's say tough times, right?
Tough
Yeah.
times and great times. And
Yeah.
because great times can kill you when everybody wants your product and you don't know if you should start a new factory or hire more people or not, right? Like there's good and bad times, and there's always good and bad of everything. But then you get the new companies. It's just the nature of age and experience, right? You're going to get companies that don't get excited about things either way, and you're going to get companies that react. And the only way you learn lessons is by reacting. So I guess the long way of saying it is it's just capitalism. So, we're seeing the ATF do stuff. Well, guess what? The regulatory and enforcement agency is going to regulate and enforce. To think that just because the ocean is calm today, that the ocean is calm is unwise. So, yeah, if a sponsor's seeing, it's like, yeah, it sucks. And maybe as a relationship with a sponsor, if you've been around way longer than them, then maybe you can help mentor or give them some advice.
Well,
but that's about the best you can do. But I guess maybe as a entity, you could think twice about being in business with people who are maybe your business model does great when things are doing great, but have you ever been through any strife yet? Have you been through any shortages or confusion or scarcity? Because then that company may not be here. And if you're depending, your whole nut is with one company who's doing great when pistol braces, or then all of a sudden that drops out from whatever. Maybe the NFA goes away and there's just no need to buy a brace anymore. And they're not selling braces because nobody wants one. Everybody just put stocks on. You got to kind of think about that, I guess. But at the same time, I think you can help a company that's that's what your whole point is. In capitalism, when you're working with somebody, is to help them in the good and bad. So,
Right.
I mean, maybe, if they have other things, if they have pistol cases that they already bought and they're sitting there in inventory, just costing money to exist, and you can help them move pistol cases, or like cleaning kits or something. Like, I have no idea, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's got to be some ways that you can not be just
Yeah.
an observer if you're really truly interested. But
Well,
it's frustrating. We know that the ocean's going to have
and
hurricanes.
it's a much. I didn't read into that question. Jeff's original question. I did not read into like finger pointing and blaming the ATF. Um, and here's why I say that. Like shenanigans the ATF pulls, even if it's just the way something is reported in the media, right? Couldn't even be. It couldn't even. It's possible it's not even something the ATF does, right? But you have somebody that goes out that has an insider with the ATF or whatever. They write some big article that gets some big traction, right? Um, that's something that the ATF did that has now, by proxy and through all the channels, gained some traction and has freaked people out, has freaked consumers out, right? So, like right now, just like suppressors, like we heard, oh, Hearing Protection Act, blah blah blah. How many people kicked back and didn't buy a suppressor? Like suppressor sales dropped. It was freaking insane, right? And everybody you talk to, oh, I'm waiting. They're gonna take them off. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I want one. I want one. I got the money sitting here, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting because Hearing Protection Act, right? And they waited. Well, what happened? Sales dropped. I mean, that's just the way it goes, right? And so I think that it's likely a similar situation. There's more parts and pieces to it, right? Than just, oh, the ATF said this or did this and it tanked this company, right? It's like the ATF may have said or did something, sure, but it has to do with the understanding of the consumer. So, I often wonder if that company is able to restructure, maybe not like officially and spend millions of dollars doing it, but pivot, right? If that company is able to pivot somehow, can they turn something the ATF's kind of like you were talking about? Maybe you focus on another product, right? Kind of shift gears a little bit and lean into that for a little bit to kind of rejuvenate, get away from the thing that's controversial or whatever's causing issue with the ATF and shift focus on something else for a little while to get the consumers' minds off of, oh, the ATF's likely going to stop these, right? Or end up restricting these.
I thought you were still going, so I'm not gonna try to type all
No,
that
I'm good.
Vanessa Kitty said about that robot dog.
Uh,
I don't know if you paid attention in the one law enforcement room, in the middle law enforcement room across the way from the big law enforcement room.
Yeah.
There was, like, on the other side of those escalators, um, the guy running. They always have one walking around in there because that's one of the robot companies is in there. And the guy running it this year, I mean, it was like going to a Disney animatronics. I'm sure that guy does nothing but run that thing at trade shows. So just like anybody who's playing with a remote control toy, that thing was nodding and putting its ear up, like all the stuff that a regular dog would do, all the mannerisms, I guess. He was
Yeah.
able to get that. He was running it like a puppet. It was creepy. I would definitely enjoy one. Not to mention is you can mount stuff on them now. Like they're really getting good at mounting stuff on them. So I
Right.
would want one, and I'd have a deployable drone off of it in addition to other things. But so you
Oh,
have
that'd
your
be kind
one
of cool.
drone that can deploy other drones like the Mark V or the Mark
Right.
5.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, thanks for asking questions and stuff. I don't know where Clover's at with time. We're about half an hour in. We're doing pretty good. I had the robot run the show last night, and it was perfectly timed. It was like so well oiled. It had us definitely. Like, I'm always using robots from now on. Gunmetal Guy is asking, for the last 24 to 48 hours, I can hit the like button and enter text in a live chat, but I cannot leave comments on a posted complete video, subbed or not. I'm on Android, all up to date, OS and YouTube app. Okay, so it's on a phone and it's up to date, which is important. Because normally I'd say if on a computer, that's totally browser issue. Just refresh your browser, turn off your computer, turn it back on, and all the caches and blah, 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 and it all resets, and that should probably go away. But I mean, it could be the same thing on a phone,
Can
but
be. Yeah.
that's just such a weird thing. So it's actually it's the same mechanism. So that's like saying I walk into the store and I can do stuff in the tire section, but if I go to the the oil section, I can't grab stuff off the shelves. It just doesn't compute. So
Yeah. Well,
last,
there
do you
would.
restart your phone? I mean, you have shut off your phone and restarted your phone every once in a while. I guess I assume things. So definitely turn off your phone, let it sit for a minute, turn it back on. If nothing else, that just tells the software that's running that, hey, I better shut off. And then when it turns back on, most of the time they don't try to reclaim their old memory, their old just caches and stuff. They'll just start over. And sometimes if there was some weird issue, how do you describe caches to people? Like there's so many ways to describe cache. It's like if you're trying to do a bunch of stuff in the car and you're going to throw stuff into your glove box or your middle console, you're either going to do that in an organized way or you're just going to throw stuff in there. And if you're normally organized and something happens and you just throw something in there, you're just not going to be able to find it as easily as you could. You might have to stop the car and look for it instead of just pushing your arm in there and grabbing the thing where it's normally at. If that makes sense. So if that's all it is, sometimes just letting the car stop and then, letting the computer stop, kind of reset, put everything back in the consoles or take everything out of the console or whatever you're thinking of a cache, and then just start over. Then it can get back into its routine and it's more like it's not glitching. But man, that's my first answer. I know it's a weak answer, but that is the first step.
So it's typically a login related glitch or hangup. Now, sometimes that is YouTube side. Remember, they're dealing with billions upon billions of user accounts. Um, so, sometimes it's just that, and there's nothing you can do. And in a few days, it corrects itself, right? Um, there are a few things you can do, especially if you're talking about the phone. So, um, just because you turn off a phone doesn't mean you turn off a phone. Um, so keep that in mind. I mean, even modern computers might work that way to an
No, you're
extent.
right. A restart is different, and a restart will turn things off differently. So you're right. Like you can shut off a computer, and some of the TSRs will just come right back on and be the same error again.
Yeah. So, what I would suggest is I would suggest going through the various apps you use. First of all, let me back up and say that there has been in the last month or so, maybe even a little bit longer, massive amounts of channels getting hacked and accounts getting hacked, right? So, um, is this a precursor? Not to freak you out, but is this a precursor to that? And is there logins from other locations, right? So maybe if you just use the one phone, okay, cool. But if you use your phone and maybe an extra phone and maybe somebody else, a kid or wife or whatever, has got that login too, and then maybe it's on your TV or maybe it's whatever, right? So first of all, I would say you can hit up your um, security stuff and be able to take a look at what devices are accessing your account, right? And so I would say that's probably the first step is to double check that, right? Just to make sure there's not anything like, whoa, what is this coming in from Zimbabwe or freaking some Eastern European country or whatever it might be, right? Like, whoa, okay, this is crazy. And so that's a security thing. And then at that point, obviously revoke access, change passwords, do different things, right? Just to make sure. But also, it'll give you an idea of sometimes if you log into multiple things, even if it's temporary, and you think you logged out, you didn't, right? So that's what I said, that most often it's some type of a login hang up. So the next deal would be to obviously make sure you know your passwords and all that kind of stuff, but log out of absolutely everything that is utilizing that, right? And then so because there's so many things that use it, um, it can be tied. It can be. There's so many things that can use it. Let me back up. It could be email. It can be your word processing and with Google Docs or with whatever, right? And how many things from mobile apps for restaurants and other things, right? Or you logged into through your Google thing. So making sure you get all of that logged out, right? Super important. And then from there, the other thing is to, yeah, Snob saying sign out of YouTube and then back in. Yeah, absolutely. But log everything out, though, that you can possibly think of first. And then the next thing, you can go and you can clear cache, and you can also force stop certain apps. So if there's apps that are, let's say you got, I'm just going to use like the Taco Bell app, and you've used
Oh
your
snap!
Google or something to log into your Taco Bell app, it could be your Taco Bell app hanging things up, right? And if you
Is
go
there
in and you force stop the Taco Bell app, all of a sudden it fixes it, right? So
safe mode for phones? Because I didn't even think about that. That's a
yeah,
whole
well, there's like a
totally valid thing.
reset, but I don't know of a safe mode. But I'm not that into the
Me
tech on
neither. I
phones,
never even
so
thought about troubleshooting a phone, but
yeah,
I bet they must have. So in other words, you've got other stuff on your computer, and the thing you're working on is messed up. Well, maybe it's because something else on the computer is dinking with it, and you can't tell, right? Except for the
right,
error you're having.
yeah,
So Clover's got a great point. If you just shut everything else off, say, "Hey, calm down for a bit," and all of a sudden your stuff works, that's an indication that there might be some conflict. You can just turn things off one
right.
at a time until you figure it out. And
It's almost assuredly a
troubleshoot
login
that.
hang, right? Like what's causing the login hang
And when you said that too,
could be any number
if
of things.
everything I described was happening on YouTube side, the way you solve that is to log out, like you and Snob are saying, and then when
Yeah.
you log back in, whatever that snag
If
was gone.
if YouTube is the only thing using those credentials, right? Like that's the
Oh,
problem.
I meant if it was like
Yeah.
totally on their end. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Cape Gunworks is out there. I'm just asking them a
Nice.
technical question so that I can. What I do is whenever, so people know when we're doing a YouTube thing, or we're on StreamYard and we're doing kind of a weird simulcast thing on 3 different channels. Actually, shit, we could point 3 channels at Cape Gunworks now that I'm thinking about it. So we're on 3 channels. One of the channels, if I can get my thing to unclick here, is YouTube, right? So if I go into my own channel over here, then I had this open, and then go into this video from the outside, just like everybody watching it. I get an edit button because it's my channel, right? So now I'm in here editing my own video that we're watching right now. Don't get scared. And then if I go to the customization button, I can go down and put in a trailer. So if the video hadn't started yet, that's how I put a commercial in for your websites. I have a little trailer down here that I can grab from my own videos, but you can put any video in there that's yours, but I can redirect it to somebody else's video. So typically I'm going to put it to somebody who's coming up, but it keeps showing me like probably stuff you scheduled and then turned off. It's showing me stuff from channels I like, but videos that don't exist. Like you probably, like you turn something on StreamYard, changed your mind or something happened and it's just like a void. So anyway, that's one of the things you can do to kind of, you'll see at the end of the video, it'll say, hey, we recommend going over and watching this next video. And that's just sort of a cool way to tag people that there's another video coming. So if that's set up, then you'll get that tag. Otherwise, yeah, Cape Gunworks goes live every Tuesday and hosts a 45-minute segment on the Grace Curley show out of Boston. That's sort of like a girl Rush Limbaugh channel show on a big radio channel in the Boston area. So Toby from Cape Gunworks goes on, and for a long time now, they do a 2A Tuesday segment where he sort of rapid fire. I think that's where they got the rapid fire radio from, if I remember the origin story. He would sort of take calls. And since Cape Gunworks is one of the most interactive live broadcasters out there, they have a lot of fun in the comments during the commercials for the Grace Curley show. You know, she's a radio host, so she'll go out for a minute and do commercials, and that's where they'll interact with the comments and stuff. And we usually kind of do an informal competition on how many calls will come in. We have a lot of fun. And then, of course, on Wednesday, they do their regular show. So it's actually a pretty neat 2-day sort of thing if you're interested in having fun and focusing on 2A stuff and understanding what it's like to be in Massachusetts with the weird tyranny they've got to deal with. Then check that out. We only have a couple of things starred. So after Gunmetal's question, and that gave us an opportunity to really talk about some nerd stuff and some of the common issues, because that you can apply that to a lot of different things, not just glitching with one comments or whatever, right?
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. Can solve a lot of
But
issues.
the only other one we got that I got started here is Jeff again. So if you've got something, we're not even in an hour yet, so we got plenty of time here. Feel free. It's almost like a robot schedule of the show. So feel free to throw some newer questions in here. It's Ask Us Anything Extravaganza. So Jeff's from Gear Report this time is saying
Content
other
content
cre-
creator coaching. Ask me anything. But anyway, go ahead.
yeah, I should say that. That's a good point because we have an entirely other show based on gun questions. You're right.
Right.
Other creator funding options. So I'm assuming that came in during our chat about Patreon, perhaps.
Yeah.
And maybe even when he's saying other than
Well,
Patreon and swag. So, or maybe aside from affiliates. So where are you interpreting this, and then how are you answering it?
well, I'm just gonna say, I mean, have you ever considered, Jeff, selling your plasma? Like that's yeah, that could help fund
Everybody's
some
got
stuff.
two kidneys.
You know, this is true. This is true. You know, you don't need two kidneys. Come on. Um, yeah, I mean that's a whole thing. I mean, we've talked about that. I think in probably in previous shows. I'm almost positive we have. But um, yeah, good lord. I mean, can we just and this is a participatory thing, even with the chat out there. When we talk about other creator funding options, start listing stuff out there, right? Um, because somebody may have an idea on creator funding that nobody else is thinking about. It's very possible. Um, People monetize things in all kinds of crazy, weird, exciting, extravagant, sometimes simple ways, right? Um, obviously, I mean, you've got money either comes from an industry or it comes from people, right? Like it's either like consumer side or it's a business side, one way or another. Like businesses pay YouTube, who then puts ads, who then gives us a cut of those ads, right? Type thing. Be the same way as Jeff was talking about with the sponsor or whatever for their live streamer stuff. That's coming straight from the business, and then you got the fan side. I would see merch as the fan side. I would see affiliates as the fan side. So you've got those two options. Are there really any other option other than you're either taking money from big corporate or you're taking money somehow from a consumer? Like that's the only two avenues, right, G? Or is there something I'm overlooking?
You can sell stuff. I mean, do your accountant selling stuff? Like,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that
can't
would
really
be
keep going.
consumer driven. Like you would be selling to consumers, right? So it would be similar to the fan funding or similar to the merch, right?
I guess yeah. So if you consider it, you either got to get your money from a thing or from a service. Then I guess
Um,
there's that line. There's always going to just be those two. I don't think there's anything else you can do except
right,
give something or do something.
right. Now
Oh,
With Jeff, and I'm sure he probably does some of this. Um, there's a big thing, and I mean, with uh, I want to say intellectual property, but I mean, there's a lot of creators that are they create their ebooks or they some kind of workshop or they do oh heck, Eli put it out there, consulting is another way to make money, yeah. um that type of thing to where you're able to monetize what you know, right? Like that's another aspect I think that people often don't think about is like, okay, it's cool to make something and then sell it, right? That would be like merch, right? Like, oh, I had these patches made. I'm going to sell this merch, right? These patches, or maybe it's a T-shirt. Much different than, oh, I know how to do this. I'm going to package my knowledge of how to do this, and I'm going to sell that knowledge, right? That intellectual property or whatever. So, and Jeff has got enough time and uh, everything else in the game, especially when it comes to what Snob was talking about with affiliate marketing. When you talk about, especially running a website like Gear Report, and dealing with a lot of the things, I just wonder if there's not things that he could potentially capitalize on as far as revenue stream with that side of things. And I think the answer is yes, there is. I just don't know what.
Well, if we're talking Jeff specifically, we know Jeff, so we
Right.
know his strengths and experience and
Right.
his interests, so give him specific things. But if you're talking about his question about a content creator looking for funding options, like I say, I think that they definitely fall into either a service or a product, right? But you've got like crowdfunding, merchandise sales, right? Like so merch, like t-shirts and things like that, patches I like. But you can make a poster and put it on a print on demand. You can, have a funny thing and put it on a shirt. There's definitely, that's a way. The affiliate, like putting a link to Amazon, like we were kind of talking about, do we say sponsored content? So, collaborate with a brand and do something like a sponsored video or something like that. You got the subscriptions on the platforms. So you've got different platforms that can do pay-per-view or YouTube memberships, right? So you've got the platforms that offer subscriptions. You can do crowdfunding projects, right? So you can have a thing that does a crowdfunding project 4 times a year or something, right? Did we talk about doing reviews that are literally paid reviews, like using your project? That's not an affiliate sale, that's just getting paid to review. So if you're going to do a blender channel and you're going to get paid to do blenders, and you're coming up with creative things to blend or whatever, like that's income. And it's in the service side of it, right?
Right.
Now,
I mean, add placement in the blender review, and you can be totally honest with the blender review because you've got an ad placement in there somewhere for maybe blender covers, or I would again make that type of thing related. But you got, oh well, there's a company over here that makes these cool custom covers for your blender. So when it's just sitting on the kitchen counter. So hey, you know what? I review blenders. We could put some ad spots, mid-roll ad spots in our blender reviews for you for X number of dollars per video, and then that keeps you open. Big thing I hear with people that take money, it even happens with a product. Like it gets me sometimes when they're like, oh, this company sent me this product to review, and then they feel beholden to that company because they sent them a product to review, and so now they should feel like they've got to have this glowing review. It's like they sent it to you to review, right? Like they didn't send it to you to promote. And I mean, maybe that's happens. I mean, that's definitely the case, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, I think there's room to do a bunch of different things just in normal video content that creators often overlook.
so then I talked about the subscriptions on like a YouTube or the pay-per-view or the super chats, right? That kind of thing. But then there's just YouTube will pay you. Like if you do videos that bring people to YouTube, they'll pay you. We don't talk about it too much on guns because it's a tough thing, a target to chase. But if we were doing something like calculators or rice cookers or
Right.
how to buy B&Bs for investment or something, it's $35 1,000 views or whatever the last time I paid attention. So and we're over here at like, if we're lucky, 8 to 6 or something. Like we're not dealing with the same return on content, and probably not the same scale. So there's literally the revenue you're going to get from Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and other platforms for just printing out content. With shorts now, there's literally like whole strategies there. You can put like Jeff is talking to us. I'm trying to be general though, but you can have a membership site or work with a membership site. You all know a giant membership site. Holy crap, do you all know a giant? So I've been around for a long time, since 97, playing around online, paying attention to gun stuff. So I'm here before, and Clover too, probably was here before most of the entities that are here today. I can't tell you how long I was larger than Smith & Wesson and Colt and Ruger's websites. I'm probably still bigger than them. Like that's not hard to do because they're not emphasizing that, especially when social happened, right? But anyhow, So in the beginning, there was a entity that exists today that's massive and everyone knows what it is, and it's not the NRA, but they started out as a subscription website. You had to pay them money to go to their website, and for a long time that was a great income model. It just got outdated, so they eventually changed, and then they changed again, and now they're what they are today, and everybody knows who they are. That subscription model worked for them. So having a site like Gear Report, I'm trying not to focus it on Jeff, but if you had a section where for $5 something happens, something gets turned off, for $5 something gets opened, for $5 there's
I like
something,
that. Yeah.
right? So you could put a subscription model on your website that you own, and that's super powerful. There's lots of potential there. But let's get back from like product placement and that kind of thing. You've got, again, I'm trying not to go to Jeff, but everybody's got an experience level, and it might be out of this realm. It might not be content creation, and it might not be the gun stuff, but let's say that you come from a supplement store background and you know everything about, I don't know, stocking a supplement store, right? Your gig was to stock 7 supplement stores in a section of a town or something. So you just know everything about the supply and demand of, health supplements or something. I'm just trying to pick something I don't usually bring up. So let's say you've got some expertise. You're allowed to create a course, and it's super easy. I can't tell you how easy it is. You want to see courses? You're going to start seeing some courses. It's super easy to make online courses and offer people coaching or, just a presentation of a course or like a study guide for that kind of thing, and take your expertise and what's the word? Monetize that. And again, you might not think that your YouTube experience or your YouTube savvy or your YouTube know-how is of value, but come on, man, name any place where there's not people ahead of you and behind you. So if you realize that there's always somebody ahead of you, but that means there's always somebody behind you, you can always give somebody a hand up. And honestly, people don't value enough that, like, let's say I'm a big ass deal, right? But I'm not I did some things strategically so I can walk into a gun show and walk around. I can walk into a gun shop and walk around. There are people that cannot do that. You know what I'm saying? For lots of reasons. There's people that cannot do that. You're of value to them. Like, you're literally going to get paid money if you'll go be their eyes and ears where they can no longer go.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. You have the potential to hook up strategic relationships with people that you can do things that they can't do. They may not realize that, but contact them and find out. Like, hey, do you need somebody to go do XYZ for you? Because I can, and I will. Membership sites, doing online courses, digital projects or products. So again, you can kind of go a long way with that, but like ebooks, courses, coloring books, like, come on, if we really want to get creative and really want to make some money, we'll do a whole show on it, but there's some ways to make some money on the digital stuff. There's tons. So the question was, other creator funding options? Aplenty. I don't want to tell people to quit their jobs and jump onto content creation, but if you enjoy getting a return on your investment for the time you're going to spend on your hobby, or in this case, hopefully, we're talking to people that have a true interest in the foundational importance of Second Amendment, what the Second Amendment protects, and normalizing the discussion and the awareness of guns. So if you're creating content, not just because it's a fun hobby, but if it's because you have a real goal in mind, people aren't addressing this segment is not yet touched. Maybe you're differently abled. Maybe you're aging. Maybe you're in one of the many demographics that's completely ignored by the current community. Your voice is infinitely important. And often the individuals who become the first in their, what do we call this, like population segment for whatever you're going to divide people up in. But if you can even come with a different point of view, there are organizations that have people out there watching. So,
Right.
You can come out there and be from zero to hero. But the only way you can do that is by letting people know you exist. So there's lots of ways to fund. And we'll talk to you about, if you're a Second Amendment activist, I'll talk to you about that anytime you want. If you're a gun person, both of us will talk to you about anytime. Give us a couple of bucks and we'll give you even more info. But I don't want to go on too much of a tangent. We've got kind of time today, but that question I think is deep, and it's something that I'm super interested in. But
yeah,
okay, that's the only other one we had starred. So unless there's any others, just ask me anything. I could ask Clover something.
Cape Gun Works said something about NFTs. So That's coming. I think. I mean, that's one thing that's starting to get some
Yeah,
traction
I
and
think
gain some ground. I mean, the facilitation of it. There's a lot of people that are uncomfortable with it for a lot of different reasons, and I think that'll get better over time. I think that right now, the way I understand, like, doesn't it cost like a couple $100 nowadays to get something done as an NFT?
Oh no. Well, it can for sure. Um, it can, but it doesn't have to for sure. It depends on if you want to go with the one people have heard of, Bitcoin, or if you want to go with another coin that people haven't heard of. So if you want to go with, we've got
Ah,
Twinkies at home, or if you want to go with I need Twinkie brand, then yeah, you can pay arm and a leg, but you can also get it done.
right,
Does that make sense?
right. Yeah, I hear you.
But NFT, so essentially a non-fungible token. It's using blockchain, which is essentially a publicly available history or archive receipt, whatever you want to say.
Mhm.
It's a way of doing the internet. It's a way of running a network of things. So if
Right.
I like to go backwards and think of it this way. It's
Basically,
super interesting. I'm about to blow your mind if you haven't heard this before. You've heard of the idea that the nuclear missiles are the size they are because of horses, because at one time horses carried around wagons, and that meant wagons were this wide because horses were this wide. And then when they started building tunnels, that's how big they made them. And then when they made trains, they were shoving them through the tunnels, and it was cheaper to just make the train go through the tunnel than to make a new tunnel. So we have tunnels for trains that are the size of horses because of all that. And now you have everything has to fit on a train. So now nuclear missiles are the size of horses, right? You get all this weird shit like that. So the
right.
internet exists because people in technically, literally, people in Michigan wanted to talk to people in California, and for the AT&T to tie an entire line together like that would have been, even for the schools, insane money in the 50s or whenever this was. So they figured out how to have a computer in Michigan talk to a school in Illinois, talk to a school in Kansas, talk to a school in Oklahoma, talk to a school in Texas, talk to a school in California, and not have to buy any lines, just use phone numbers. So when they first built the internet, it was this whole like, hey, can you call this school and ask them this? And hey, and that was email. And then that became packet transfers, and then blah, blah, blah. The whole internet lays on top of the fucking horse trails. So the whole horse trails, the whole internet goes around on stupid horse trails because of people who couldn't afford to buy internet stuff, right? So the new internet says everybody talks to each other. And the reason we're talking to each other in little tiny pieces like this dumbass way of doing it is because of the copper lines. And we don't do that anymore. There literally aren't even copper lines anymore. Like, that doesn't exist. Only in very small places is that even a thing. So what if we just keep talking to each other and drop all this underlayer? And now what does that let us do? Well, now instead of working on something that's as wide as a horse, we can go with a reasonable size, like the size of a car. Let's not go crazy, but let's go the size of a car. But what if we want to go the size of a giant earth mover? What if we want to go the size of a B-52? We
Right.
can't, because it's the new internet. So NFTs are a way of using the internet that isn't constrained by the horse going through a tunnel and all that shit.
Yeah.
So you can go, NFTs, I don't get them. I don't get it. But in reality, it's just a different way of doing the internet that leaves a trace behind that people can't fuck with. Like, oh, I wanna change the Mandela effect. I want to change, history. I want to act like guns are really bad, right? No, you can't, because here's history. Like, here's everything that happened, and here in this blockchain, you tried to screw with it, and
Right.
you can't change things. So
Yep.
NFTs are simply a thing that, like, and here's another way I'm gonna try to explain it. If you have one of these hats and it says NBA on it, or it says sports, or maybe NASCAR, right? It's going to have a little hologram sticker that says this is legit. Somebody didn't copyright or fake this. This is a real one.
Yep.
NFTs is just a digital way of having that hologram sticker.
Yep.
So it's a way that somebody can say,
Yep.
oh, this Word document is official. Like, oh, this image is official. Like, this is the only one because it's got this sticker on it. Somebody can take a picture of it and like, oh, that's the Mona Lisa. No, it's a picture of the Mona Lisa. That's the Mona Lisa. It's got the hologram sticker on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
essentially what an NFT is.
Yeah.
Some people don't see the value in that. Like, what's the value of owning the Mona Lisa if I can have a picture of the Mona Lisa? Well, that's the question. Like,
Well,
so some people there is no
for
difference, and for
for a
some people it's
certain
ultimately different.
for a certain segment of the population, it's because they can afford to have the Mona Lisa and they want the Mona Lisa. They want to be the one that owns it. You know what I mean? So people discount this we see it all the time, right? Especially in our community. We see it all the time with, oh, what do you need that for? What do you need that 9mm for? What do you need that long revolver with a huge muzzle brake for? What do you need this caliber, that caliber, this gun or that gun? I don't understand why you need that, right? Like we hear that all the freaking time. And sometimes this, we can't discount. There's a reason that when you talk about world economics working the way it was, when you're talking about what honestly built this company, has nothing to do with need. It has to do with want. Like I want that, right? Whether it's I want that because I want to own that, or it's I want that simply because think of invention in the case of inventions. Like I just want this to exist, right? How many people create something just because they want it to exist? There's no other reason behind it. There's no point to it. It's not like they require it in their day to day life to perform a function or anything else. It's just like, I want this to exist. Right. And that's when you get into the kind of the art mindset with it a little bit. It's when you have it just to have it exist. But people forget the want side of things. There's nothing wrong if you can afford to you know, do this, that, or the other, and that's what you want to do, go do it. More power to you. That's why we live in a free society and can do things like that.
I'm going to stick on NFTs for a second because you brought up a couple of points that I just kind of glossed over, assuming people had heard these conversations before. But so NFTs are critical. Like anybody that blows these off because right now their artwork is. I've been using this analogy a lot. Remember back when dot matrix printers could do the banners with the paper that had the holes on the edges, and you'd print out like happy birthday and it would look like crap, but we thought it was the coolest thing ever because we could make our own happy birthday banner. So for a while there, that was a thing, right? And then look what 3D printers can do. So if somebody would have said, I can make a printer, I can make a banner out of something else and it'll look better than this, they weren't seeing the future of what printers were going. I mean, we didn't see the future. We just thought it was cool as heck that we could make this, and we were nerds. But what I'm saying, evolution happened. That's what NFTs are like. People are sticking an NFT. If you want to think of it as that hologram sticker, I think that's the easiest way from regular people to think of an NFT. So if you want to stick that hologram sticker on art, do it, right? Go nuts. But now let's think realistically. What if you have a house and you want to have that house be unique? You can put a document for that house or the house itself as an NFT, right? That contract. So now, you've got the ability to have singularities on a digital platform that is designed to be copied and emulated and broke up and pieced together and everything. Like, so this is truly groundbreaking. The blockchain sounds like such a simple thing, but it's the ability for you to verify. You can have trust, but privacy. So if Clover wants to trust me, I can't give him the answer to the thing that we're trying to do business about for what, I've got my privacy over here, but he wants to be able to trust that I'm accurate. Blockchains is just a very clever little math thing that was invented in the 1990s. It's brand new math. And it's essentially a way to use like a Morse code. I could get into it, but it's like a cool little way of saying like, I've got a thing over here and you want to know if it's accurate or not. And it's a little clever math way that you, Clover, can be ultimately like 99.99999% sure that I'm on the dot, and it creates this like record that's also in this code, and it's super neat because it's just when you think about it, there's little clever little math tricks that like you shrink things down to yes and no, and then flip it back the other way back to where it came from. It's the same thing as encryption and stuff. So anyway, it becomes like a sort of a mechanism that's super strong, and it gives us this ability that eventually we won't need a centralized XYZ. It decentralizes so many things. And we as individuals who believe in individual freedom, most people that aren't anarchists understand that individual freedom with liberty is what we enjoy. We're not in a democracy. We're in a democratic, right? We're in a democratic republic, or whatever we are. We're not a true democracy, right? We're that republic. That's an important difference. So, there's having this ability to have a unique item online is super, super powerful. And that's the part where, right now it's not a big deal, but there actually is, because as we go forward, like what's it worth to own one of the first Kodak cameras or like one of the first typewriters? Not everybody wants it, but it definitely has value. So having an NFT today, I'm not saying like drop everything and buy NFTs, but don't throw them away. It's just like when people had Bitcoin from years ago and they're like, oh, I wish I would have kept it because I'd be a billionaire. You know, that kind of thing. Like, you're not going to necessarily have these things as an investment, but it'll definitely be neat to give your great great grandkids some NFTs from when nobody knew what NFTs were. Like, here's one of the old dusty old first NFTs or whatever. And it'll just be it's a thing that's not going away. And we just haven't played with it yet, or we haven't needed to play with it or had the opportunity to play with it. But when we start talking about in our realm, banks being wanky and weird, you know, I think we had a scam happen, you know, without getting too much in a tangent, with the cyber coins. We say Bitcoin, but that's sort of like saying Kleenex, right? It's a tissue paper, but everybody calls it Kleenex. Well, cybercoin is what they're called, or Bitcoins, or wait, no, cybercoins are what they're called, right? Bitcoin is a brand of one. So everybody calls them Bitcoins, but that's just like saying Kleenex. So anyway, there was one of those coins where some guy screwed a bunch of people over and lost billions of dollars or something. I don't really pay attention to that stuff, but that guy, I think, gave cyber such a black eye, and so many people that don't understand it, don't see the potential, and don't understand that they're looking at the dot matrix happy birthday banner when they're thinking about it. Same with AI. Nobody's really paying attention to the potential of these things. That they were like looking for that excuse to dismiss it, right? Like, oh yeah, that's a scam. I thought so. But when why can't I think of Tusk? Dude from Tusk. Why can't I think of his name? He hasn't been on in a bit.
Yeah, had you not asked, I could have told you.
Sorry, let's Rob. Rob, thank you. When Rob jumps on from Tusk, like, he would have some pretty good points about now I lost track trying to think of Rob's name. So I think I was going to say that it took some black eye, so I haven't talked to him since, but I'm guessing that it's one of those things where, I guess I was going to say, Rob will always talk about like credit cards when they first came out. Somebody'd look at it and go, this ain't money. This ain't cash. I'm not going to take this.
I can remember my grandparents' thoughts on credit cards, debit cards from like back in the day, right? And they'd been out a while, obviously. Credit cards been around for a long time. But I can even remember like in the 80s or something, like my grandma and grandpa's thoughts on the whole credit card thing, right? They wrote a check.
Yeah, like, I got money, I'll pay for it. I don't need the bank to pay nothing. Like, there was like lots of different like opinions about it, but it wasn't an easy transition. And now it's so and then I like to say also, some of us are old enough to remember when you would use a credit card online. What do you mean online? What do you mean put my credit card number on?
Yep.
So yeah, NFTs are coming, and as far as getting paid as a content creator, that would take another show and maybe some creativity, because I don't see NFTs being common enough, but certainly in realms. And I bet you NFT realms make real good money because they're people that are already playing with money. They're probably cyber billionaires playing with money. Yeah. But, if you're trying to do something that, has subscribers or investors, do you do that with people that are scrimping and saving, or do you do that with people that are internet or cyber billionaires? Doing stuff that it might be tough to talk to them because they already know their deal, but I mean, I could see that being lucrative. There was Eli put in here, consulting is another way to make money, and then I thought there was another. Oh yeah, some YouTubers get paid to speak at places. I need to find out about that. I know some YouTubers go to places and speak. I haven't, I guess, been aware of the ones where they're getting paid to do it. Sometimes they get help getting to a place, but I haven't seen anybody. And it's a shame, because honestly, I really would rant on that too, that we should be paying our Second Amendment advocates to be at places. But aside from that, there are opportunities for that, right? And then I think additionally, and again, I'm not trying to go back and focus on just Jeff, because he's got the resources to do this, or at least, he's hanging out in realms to do this. But you can either host or be part of the hosting of one of these live events, right? Like, you can either get paid to be there, or you could just be a part of the live event. Think of Defense Dad and Travis, who started the Thunder on the Prairie event. It's already rocking into its second year, and it's a massive success. Something like that. They could have just not done that, but they went ahead and did it. So again, there's a lot of people who will never even consider going to the big Yahoo Stroke Fest, and then you offer the authentic, real deal, the same weekend at a real range instead of the big flashy range that nobody likes. You know what I mean? Like there's potential there. You don't have to necessarily do that like the same weekend, but you know what I mean? Like there's potential to arrange a couple of people to get together and start asking around. Hey, is there a time when everybody, oh yeah, we're all here in that weekend. Yeah, we're there for that weekend. You know, the weekend after Thanksgiving, everybody's here. What? So 5 of you are going to be in this same neck of the woods the weekend after Thanksgiving, and we could put together a thing. You know,
Yep.
not for everybody, but it's a potential.
Yep.
Okay. Otherwise, was there any other questions that came in?
Not seeing anything.
Smeggy's out there. Good evening.
So
Printers and parts kits can make your dream come true. I don't know about that, but they can probably be some fun. Have you put your printer together yet?
Nope.
No or yes? I couldn't hear you.
no.
Oh. My printer rolls paper cut into 24 by 38 sheets, as many thousands of sheets as you want. Yeah, we don't all have that size printer. I think Ozzy is definitely a step or two beyond the paper with holes in it. I don't even know what that's called anymore. Dot matrix?
The dot matrix.
Paper.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely about as far as the other way as he can go, I think.
Track feed, I think, or something. Maybe.
Have you seen Ozzy's place? He's posted a couple of pictures over the years of like his where he works at.
Yeah.
It's essentially like a newspaper place. Like it's got rolls of paper that go around the entire room like nonstop. It's all the same piece of paper.
Yep.
All right. So unless anybody's got any other ask us anything things, what would I don't know. Is there any other questions we should do here?
No, I mean I don't see any out there. We're a little over an hour, so
Smeggy says there's lots of crypto scams. I think there are crypto scams, and there are people that are hesitant about it in the first place and looking for a reason to not have to worry about it, and they're going to talk about the scams. But the people that are making a lot of money don't necessarily run around going, "I just made more money. I just made more money."
There are. So I would say there's a difference. There's a difference in I get it. There are a lot of people that use crypto to scam, right? Like so the argument, I mean, some people make the argument like, oh, crypto is such a scam, blah 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 blah. It's like, crypto itself is not the scam. Crypto is just something that gets all too often used, right, to scam people. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, like credit cards weren't a scam, but once credit cards existed and you could call somebody and ask them for their credit card numbers, and if they gave them to you, you could charge them immediately. Like that's just a different kind of scam than having to rob them. So yeah, it opened doors for a new type of scam, right? Or made it facilitated a kind of scam.
Yeah, and I think it's dangerous if you don't distinguish right between that, because I mean people are still credit card scamming folks even today, right? And how long has credit cards been around? So that doesn't mean credit cards or debit cards are the devil or the problem. It's just that it's a mechanism that, people are going to come up with a way to do it. I mean, there's a certain segment of the population on the planet Earth that's all about, hey, I'm going to get however, I'm going to get money however I can get money. And if that's screwing a fellow human over, then I have no problem with it. Like, no, not me personally, but that person doesn't have a problem.
There's people with that attitude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that I'm going to say something here just to say it. So you might not pay attention to the robots and the AIs, but they are crazy fast and they're not even slowing down. And people are, like Clover just said, there's people that see everything as a weapon against you and me, right? Against everybody. So here's the deal. If you've got old people or people that are susceptible to this, which could easily be a 9mm shooter, they don't have to be old to be not right in the head, right? So if you've got old people, though, I'm just not kidding. If you've got old people that are susceptible to phone calls to somebody who might call it, do a scam, especially those of you that are doing content creation and have lots of voice and image online, it is possible to take enough samples from broadcasted content and create, hey grandma, I'm stuck somewhere and can you transfer me some money? Like, I mean, I just said it. Like if I had a grandma, I don't unfortunately anymore, but you know what I mean? Like somebody could have taken that recording, played that into a phone, be aware of that. So safety questions, hey, Grandma, if I ever ask you for anything, I'm going to talk about that vacation where we did the thing. Hey, Grandpa, never talk to anybody who sounds like me or whatever. There's scams out there now.
I like,
Code
yeah,
word, number, something simple.
yep,
Remember mashed potatoes, Grandpa. Remember mashed potatoes. And if I don't say mashed potatoes, that's not me, because it's worth it. I mean, it sounds stupid and dumb, but again, this stuff's happening quick, and those assholes out there are going to use everything to screw with people.
yep. Yeah,
Okay.
I had that one time. You get, you know, Facebook is the worst. You'll get people that spoof accounts and do things, and then um, I got a message, and it was from somebody that I don't talk to very often. But I'm like, this is not this person. And they were like, "Oh, did you hear you can get free money from the government? Something, blah blah blah." And I just casually shifted the conversation over into like some history that I'd had with this person. Like, hey, have you visited that so and so restaurant lately? And they're like, oh yeah, I was there, a few weeks ago. And I'm like, okay, well, considering it had been closed down for a year,
Yeah. Hey,
like,
Smeggy, have you been to the closed down peanut lunch place
right,
lately? And he's
right,
like, fuck yeah, I was there last week eating
right,
peanuts. You're like, oh yeah, really? Well, go fuck off. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
right,
It's at the end
like,
of the show. So sorry about that. So Smeggy's saying it's
right,
called a rug pull. Someone claims to make a new crypto, and once you give them money, they walk away from the project and never make the thing. Yeah, for sure. But they could do that with, hey, I'm making a new website. Hey, I'm making a new
yep,
patch. Hey, I'm making a new little sweatshirt for my puppy.
yep,
That's a potential. But whenever something's new, right, you got that novice, whatever the word is, that people can take advantage
right,
of.
right.
Okay, so Worthwhile Fun is out there. Thank you for being an advocate for all of us in Missouri. There are channels or spaces out there. Are there channels or spaces out there for 2A what is that saying? Oh, 2A stuff grouped by state. Just wondering how to find more in Missouri. Going to testify, maybe.
Yeah.
The work sharing info online. Seems we should be finding each other. Oh man, I'll start screen sharing. You can take that one to begin with, I guess, because I could go on all day and for another week on this one. So I don't know. You got anything to say on that one?
I tried once upon a time putting something together like that. It didn't quite work out because big tech was a lot of it. But yeah, but every second matters. Yeah.
So you got this one, and do I
This
have
is
organized by state? I don't think I have this one organized by
so
state. I'm about to rip this apart and rebuild it though. But that's
right.
definitely, this is the old version, and this is this is some software that allows you to, this is expensive software, and it's broke down and dead, but it looks neat, right? So the new version would be Minuteman, and I'm trying to think if I have all the um, organizations. You can go down the menu on the side, and when you get down to gun rights lobby, right, you've got the gun state pro rights organizations. I have separated it. So you got a PDF if you want it on this page, and a PDF, an image. So you've got a picture of the list if you want it for the web. I've got a map I made up. We did that live one time. And then I've got them all listed here. You can click on them and get in there and get information about them. As I have time, I put more resource into this. These are listed chronologically. So if you're ever interested in which organizations came first, Illinois State Rifle and Pistol Association, followed by Texas State Rifle and Pistol Association, Rhode Island, and then Missouri. So these are the state level organizations. Most of them are made by the NRA. Most of them are ignored, and people take it, for granted that these organizations are out there doing their thing. And then once you get to about 2011 or so, you get the diversity from the NRA based ones that have been around for generations and decades. And some of that was with dissatisfaction with the way they were run, and others were because they were not doing, I don't know, something specific, or in a way like open carry or something that wasn't being advocated for, or constitutional carry. Or in some cases, I'm not going to point at ones, but unscrupulous a-holes that want to exploit and take money off the table from others. But there's not too many of those, and they're usually not I don't list them if I can help it. Some of them I have to list because otherwise we're not showing everything. So that's a difficulty. But as soon as you get to like 2010 and earlier, all 100% valid groups that have decades and, you know, I can't even imagine how many years of experience accumulated there. So this is my new version. And like I say, we're about to rip this apart. And this will be a more dynamic version. I'll bring in coders and stuff at some point. So instead of being boring and unformatted like this one, we'll have something a little bit more interesting here. But yeah, as far as getting them to work together, Every Second Matters is an online campaign, so there's nothing to work with there, right? Gun Owners of America, $10 to $12 million a year, or something like, you know, they're working on millions of members. Arizona Citizens Defense League used to be 4 old dudes, and for many years I was their social media guy, working for zero, for volunteering for nothing. And then you get Empowered 2A, which is one girl from Texas, and then she moved to Colorado, and now I think she's in Georgia, and she goes off and on being individual, and now she's on, or paid for by the or working for the GOA. She's working for the GOA. NFA Freedom Alliance, I think that's like 2 people, guy and his wife. Florida Carry, 5 dudes in Florida that care more about open carry than constitutional carry. Not they are a state level organization. FPC, something like $1.5 million. They barely bring in $2 million a year. I'd be surprised if they're past $4 million a year yet. All lawyers and then crazy, sarcastic social media types. Try working with them. Good luck. They work with some people, but you know what I mean? The Law Enforcement Alliance of America, has anyone even heard of that? Second Amendment Foundation, they've been around since 1971 and 1974, depending on which side. $12 million a year. Try working with them. They work with some people, but try working with them. Nebraska Firearms Association, that's like 5 people that are attempting to get people in Nebraska who are like, I don't need help with that. I can do that myself. Right? Imagine trying to bring Nebraskans together. So that's an organization that they probably love help, but how are they going to help anybody else? Like, they're barely able to do this on top of their own advocacy, on top of their 9-to-5s. Michigan, I don't know anything about. American Women Who Bear Arms, I could keep going and tell you about all of these, but I'm trying to say, like, the diversity here is insane, and these are scale and points of interest and focus. I think the best we can do is advocate for them, and occasionally there's going to be some team ups and stuff, but it's just, I don't even think, I don't think it's possible to get them to work together. Every once in a while they kind of go in the same direction, but I don't know. I'll shut up.
So you read that question from Worthwhile Fun way differently than I took it. You went down an organizational road, broken across the country, and I seen this more of a people in a state getting together with people in a state question. And so I would say a couple things about that. Like, if sadly, there are a few large platforms where you can organize groups and try to get things together. Sadly, depending on the topics discussed in said group, you can run afoul of policy, over enforcement of policy, let's just say, and a lot of other things. Now, there's a bunch of sparse, hidden in the dark corners of the internet somewhere in a web search, forums and things like that as well. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's out there that's got a big flashing sign that says all 2A people from Missouri come here. Um, so I guess where I would go with this, I totally agree. Um, with the seams we should be finding each other. Networking, communication betwixt people is super, super, super important. Um, whether you're talking in state, whether you're talking across in other states across the country, knowing who somebody is, what they do, how to get in touch with them, all of that is super important. Because what happens if I'm having a conversation and this person has a really awesome idea, but that awesome idea, for whatever it has to do with promoting the 2A or whatever it might be. But that person lives, just so happens I meet them here, they're on vacation, or they're here to visit family, and they're from Missouri. Well, I'm not a really big help. But you know what? I know Worthwhile Fun, and maybe here's a phone number or an email, or maybe you get with them, right? And so it helps in being able to facilitate, right? Those connections and networking and those contacts. But then the final thing I was going to say about that is if you're looking for a spot where 2A people hang out and where 2A people get together and you can't find one, um, maybe you need to start one. Maybe you need to pick up that ball. And I'm not, saying Worthwhile Fun needs to do that.
Yeah,
It's
you
not what I'm
don't have to
saying.
code it. You can just
It's
say, "Hey,
just
it
a
needs to exist. Let's
Yeah,
make this happen."
it's just a general statement that maybe that's a section on your website. Maybe that you devote, a video a week to, a Q&A or some type of awareness that you push out, right? Maybe it's developing a newsletter, right, and being able to disseminate information and keep awareness and stuff. You know, people in contact and in communication with each other. Maybe that falls on you. And again, not saying use and specifically Worthwhile Fun, but somebody that's asking that question. Is that an opportunity? That's what I'm getting at, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't want to say I want to just throw again, like you don't have to carry the whole ball. You can be the one that says, "Hey, let's get this started," and then it could be the kind of thing where like, oh, a bunch of people are like, "Oh, we thought that this should happen already. Let me help." Right? You might find out that you're just the one that starts the whole thing.
Right.
All right. So then Snob is saying, I've learned, Gun Snob out of Oklahoma is saying, I've learned you have to be careful even with the state organizations. The one NRA backed in Oklahoma, terrible. They actively went against constitutional carry, while the other one, OK2A, worked to get it passed. And yeah, that can be frustrating, but yeah, you can't just assume. And there's other ones that are just out there to capitalize on the interest when it's, when there's interest. Like Colorado's a great example. Like a bunch of entities exist because there was a campaign against, like, to resist the tyranny, and a bunch of them saw that there was an opportunity, confusion, and money on the table, so they just jumped in and said, "Hey, we're that one that supports Second Amendment," and literally survive on that. Multiple ones survive on that. All right, we're 90 minutes in, which is a good stop in place for it. We're going to be doing this show continuing on, and for topics, something that you'd like to hear one of us talk about or riff on, or Mike breaking up over here. It looks like
Well, obviously, Snob threw in their affiliate marketing, so that needs to be a whole show probably at some point.
Okay. Oh, you know what I was thinking? I've been playing with forms. I made a form for this project, and I was like, I forgot about forms.
I like forms, yeah.
I might make a form. Not forum, but form. So Worthwhile Fun followed up. Thanks, guys. I did mean more active individuals, but we'll check out the organization list as well. Okay, so then, back in the old days when there were forums, right? Just threads and whatever they're called, online bulletin boards, I guess. In those days, yeah, there were still frustrating because all the people that like each other and people that don't like each other are going to separate, right? And then there are going to be more than one forum if it's large enough state. But yeah, those were avenues for finding information a lot quicker, because essentially the internet was just smaller, and that's where all the current information was. The rest of the internet was archival and not updated as often, so that was your place to go. But now there's so many social places that are the opposite, that they're constantly updating and hardly ever good for researching. So you get a lot of people who go to get their news of the day at the. Can you hear her? It's her sleeping.
Yeah.
I don't want to wake her up. But anyway, there's so many people that are actively having their conversations in completely separate places, that it can be frustrating. And I think that's the first step, is like, I don't like Facebook. I barely use it, I guess I should say. She's having fun. She seems to be having some kind of a playing, maybe with this little dog in her dream right there. But so there's places that some people aren't going to go, and that's going to be tough to get them together. But I think the best bet is, honestly, I think one of the best things that I've seen in a while is the DC project. It doesn't really try to go outward and bring people together, but the people it has brought together have had effect. That makes sense. So I can understand the frustration. You're a singularity, unfortunately. So if you're trying to find others like you, I mean, I wish you all the success, but I suspect you're not going to find too many others that are that able, interested, and eager. But heck, I also come from a time when there were no role models like you and the other ladies to emulate. And it could be that there's been tons of
Yep.
those people. Why wouldn't there have been who just didn't know that that was a route you can travel? So again, that might be something that, you know, is the next evolution. We're seeing lots of different changes out there. But yeah, up until now, it's been frustrating. And it's one of my problems with the socials. I guess I don't think in any of the times me and Clover have gotten together to complain about how it used to be and it was better and how it's lame and it should be like it used to be. But honestly, I usually just petition for use the internet, you know, quit thinking of YouTube as
Yeah.
your destination, but as a tool you use online.
Mhm.
It's always been a frustration with these social platforms is that because they're separate individual ones, and aside from some interactions or some, what am I trying to say, mergings of them, you're really having to have separate conversations all over the place. And it does separate people. Like I don't go to Discord, I don't go to Reddit. You know, these places are having thriving conversations that are going on, and I'm just missing them because I'm not going to go to the platform. And
Yeah.
everybody's got their own, you know, places they're going to go or they're not. But some people hate YouTube. Like if you're driving, why would you want to watch YouTube? You can listen to podcasts and you're getting prepared, useful that stuff that you can hear. You know, it's just I can understand why people like what they like, and that because of that it's tough to get people together. So the organizations that do things, and then I guess I'm also going to default to rallies, you know, the rallies and gun shows and the new evolution of industry events that bring people together to either purchase or experience or just have fun. There's some cons, you know, conventions type of things that are happening where guns are the focus or a type of gun, and those bring people together. So maybe a 2A con or, you know, something like that would be neat. Something that's just bringing people of like-minded together, but not necessarily to
Oh,
rally, just to have a good time.
there's a lot of people that participate in the 2A con. Just you gave me a chance to be funny there. But
Oh, there is a 2A con.
well, I said there's a lot of people that participate in the 2A con. The 2A con, like, you know, con man, con.
Oh, I got you. Sorry, I got one dog who's asleep and it's freaking me out because she sounds like she's in pain or something, but she's having a funny thing. And then this other dude has decided it's time to get up, or maybe he just wants to run. Go look at her. I'm gonna wake her up. I put him on the ground. Now they're both in trouble. So anyway, sorry, I was super distracted by animals.
Well, he normally doesn't go, but about an hour and a half anyway.
Yeah, exactly. He's a good timer. Let's see. Swaggy says if we had a few people in each state keeping it updated, it'd be a great resource. Yeah, that's the whole idea with every second matters. And I'm getting sick of wishing it. I'm going to just try it. I mean, I've never wanted to do it, but who cares? Nobody's even using it anymore. So, you know, I gave it however many years it's been. 9 years, 13, right? No, 10 years. Fuck, November, it'll be 10 years. So, yeah, it's over. I'm just going to turn it into a different thing. It's going to be Hey Jackass, except for everything and not just Chicago. I'm just going to get a coder. So if you know some coders, get them over here and we'll start talking even nerdier.
Right.
But anyway, we're going to be continuing to do the show. If you've got ideas for an intro, if you've got ideas for a title, a cool title, that has gun channels in it would be cool. If you want some consulting, if you want some coaching, if you want some technical assistance, either one of us are available. Not quite at your disposal or at your command, but we can make time in a busy schedule if you've got something to do. If you're a 2A person, you'll get that time from me for free. So thanks to our Patreons, I can offer that. There are people that subscribe to what we do. I've got 100 and less than 130. It actually went down quite a bit. You know, Gizzard took off, and there's an influence there. There's a wake. So I'm somewhere around 111 people that subscribe to what we do. Most of them are buying me a cup of coffee. So $5 or something a month. That $5, if you think about it, $5, 100 people, that's $500. You know, Patreon takes a cut out of there that pays some bills. It doesn't pay the mortgage. It doesn't, you know, make it easy to just live off of the land. But you know, it allows me to confidently offer. If you're a Second Amendment advocate and you've got questions and you don't know how to, you have resources. You've got me and everybody I know to help you. You're not alone out there. Value your voice. I'll let Clover end it, and we'll be back next Tuesday.
Yeah, I don't have anything. Good talk. A lot of questions. Hopefully, we have a pointed topic for the next show.
I liked a couple of weeks back or last week, I think I posted the poll. So I'll do that again. So if you've got ideas for the poll, let us know. Otherwise, I'll just come up with some ideas and we'll let kind of people determine the topic of next week's show.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Thanks again. We'll see everybody next week. I need to come up with an outro.